Hi, everyone. My mic on? Hi. You just want to stand up? How's your week been? How was your sleep last night? How's your sleep all week? Yeah? How many of you got 8 hours of sleep last night? Okay. 7? 6? 5? 4? 3? Appreciate your honesty. 2? 1? Okay, cool. All right. How about this? Let's start today's conversation off with a breathing exercise, if you all would. Everyone close your eyes. Okay. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep on going. Yeah. So today, keep on breathing, keep your eyes closed. Today I'd like to talk to you about a few things that are the most important topics of each of our lives. It's about life and death. It's about our shared conscious experience. And people think about what I do in anti-aging as sometimes as a vanity endeavor, but really health is something we share as a community. That it's much easier to be healthy when others are healthy, and that life is twice the joy and half the sorrow when we have friends. So I'd ask you in this 60 minutes to give this conversation all of your attention. We're going to go through a lot of material very quickly, and each point, each word has fought for its life for inclusion. Okay, you guys want to sit down? Okay, don't die. A lot of people hear about don't die, and you maybe have seen a headline of something like this. Something about my nighttime erections. There is science behind that if you are not having nighttime erections, you are 70% more likely to have a premature death. It's one of the most important biomarkers that you can measure. And women, this is true for you as well. It's just not as easy to measure. The clitoris engorges at night, and in the morning there's a morning bean. So men and women, this is one of the most important markers. In fact, when you're 18, you have on average around 2.5 to 3 hours of nighttime erections. It's a function the body automatically does without your awareness. And as you age, it goes down. So when you're 75 years old, you're down to maybe 50 minutes. So what I've been trying to do over the past couple of years, I've been trying to demonstrate that you can, in fact, use measurement and science and slow down the speed of aging and reverse aging damage. And nighttime erections is a good example. My nighttime erections are better than the average 18-year-old. Now, this is not going to the gym and getting strong. This, again, is something your body does by itself. So my body, in many ways, is functioning like an 18-year-old. But it's not really about nighttime erections. It's about something else. It's really about this, that we may be the first generation who won't die. Now, I want to put this idea in context for you, okay? Let's imagine we travel in time, and we go back to the year of 1870. You're about to get surgery for something, and you hear this person around town talking about this new idea about microscopic objects called bacteria, and they cause infection. Now, half the town's like, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. There's a few people saying, you know what, kind of interesting. But you know what, right now in your life, it is the most important thing you could ever figure out, because if you get surgery and the person who doesn't believe in the bacteria, they believe it's caused by evil spirits, by bad spirits. You may be at risk of an infection and maybe even death. I would hypothesize and put forward to you today that don't die, that the idea that we may be the first generation who won't die is the same level of crazy that idea was then. And while we may look at it now and say, that just makes no sense, I don't see the path forward, it is. And today, the conversation is to try to provide to you a rationale of why this could be the moment for us. So I just want to comment on the insanity of my life over the past couple of years. I started this endeavor, and I was trying to pose a question, are we the first generation? And so we started doing all these experiments on me, and then I just had this tsunami of hate. Like, people get really upset about this topic. And so I just want to call attention that I go around trying to explain to people that death is bad, and I really catch a lot of flack. And I think there's reasons why that's the case. So today, I'm going to tell you there's 5 things we're going to learn. Then I'm going to tell you those 5 things, and then I'm going to remind you I told you those 5 things so you remember them, okay? First, dying makes you sad. This sounds obvious, but you'll see it's not so clear. Okay, being happy takes work. We may be the first generation. Don't die will save the human race. And it will take all of us to pull this off. Okay, dying makes you sad, number 1. How many of you guys did these things? Let's be honest. All right, this week. Come on, be honest. Okay. So these things do make you sad. Okay, they increase the biological aging process. They accelerate the path of disease. They cause emotional imbalances. They lead to depression and anxiety and other mood disorders. And so this is living life in 2025. And the challenge is these are the cultural norms that create pressures in our life that when we go to an endeavor, to a gathering, we may not want to drink, but we kind of feel forced to because others are drinking and we don't want to be left out of the group. So sometimes it's a challenging situation. Now, the future is going to look back, and whether that's 2030 or whether that's 2035 or even sooner, they're going to look back and say, those Homo sapiens were crazy. Right? So this is why, this is the declarative concept, 2025 culture makes us sad. And I want to put forward the argument that anything that is accelerating your speed of aging and accelerating disease is not good for us. And it actually creates a manic-like world, okay? So we know this is true. These stats, I think, are just underreported. 1 in 4 of us have mental challenges. 1 in 3 of us report chronic loneliness. And 1 in 4 of us report burnout. I think when you sample your friends and family, I think we'd all probably say the numbers are probably a lot higher. I know the people close to me, like, it's tough. It's really tough out there right now. So this is where a lot of people level criticism at me. They say, everything you're doing, Bryan, you're so busy trying to not die, you're not living. The irony is I've never felt happier in my entire life. So this is the point I want to make with you. Okay, and I want you to listen very closely to this. The norms of 2025, of fast food and drinking and missing bedtime, those things make you sad. And you're better off by not doing those things. Now, this is really hard to do because our culture is so firmly planted there. But I want to argue that you are going to be a better human in all ways if you follow a different path and try to be happy. Now, I've done this. I've achieved the happiest I've ever been, and I've also maintained the best biomarkers of anybody in the entire world. Now, I'll confess, it's a competition of one. But you know what? So when we set out, we started to measure the biological age of every organ in my body, right? So I'm 47 years old, but I have 70 plus organs, my heart and my brain and my lungs, my ears. We measured the biological age of each organ. So I'm 47, but my heart is 37. My diaphragm is 18. My left ear is 64. I listened to a lot of loud music and shotguns as a kid. My cardiovascular ability is equal to an 18-year-old, equal to a top 1% of an 18-year-old. And so here are all the markers I have, and I share them publicly. And I've tried to make longevity into a sport, where when I first started doing this, people would say, you're like Patrick Bateman or like Prometheus or like Dorian Gray or like a biohacker billionaire, like in the age of vulgarity. And I'd say, actually, no, I'm a professional rejuvenation athlete. There's a leaderboard, there's a competition. And so I share this. And so I have friends all the time message me saying, I'm going to beat you, which is great. The reason I share this is so others can beat me. It's trying to move the entire community forward. So this is the first point. You can be healthy. You can have fun and be healthy. You can be ambitious and be healthy. You can be a good parent and be healthy. So it's also important to understand there are people in the world who are profiting off of your sadness. And they make it look fun, and they make it seem easy, and they put all kinds of social pressures on you, but they make money on your sadness, and we should not participate in that game. All right, let's talk about what makes you happy. Like, we can all agree, right? These things make you happy: being jacked, being fit, having beautiful skin, being clear-headed, being loved and loved. So this is the goal. So we're going to talk about these things. Okay, so how do you be happy? 5 things, okay? You guys ready? We're going to go through a commitment pattern. Yeah? Okay. Well, nah, I'm so unconvinced. Okay. Yes, we are now going to have a discussion. I'm going to be an interventionist in your life. Are we ready for this? Yeah. Okay, all right, okay. Sleep. Okay, so actually, let me tell you this first. So I'm going to tell you, you don't have to spend millions of dollars to do what I've done. You don't have to dedicate your entire life. It's actually going to be very simple. I'm going to tell you 20% of the things to get 80% of the benefits. Okay, I believe in you. So many of my friends have told me when they reach for the bag of chips, they hear my voice in their ear, and they don't do it, okay? So this is it. I'm trying to get in your ear. Okay, so the context here is when we started, health was very much about storytelling, an antidote, and we said, what if we went through all the scientific evidence that was ever published in the history of the human race? We prioritized all of it to say what things work best, what has the strongest evidence, and then we measured the biological age of every one of my organs, and then we applied the protocols into my body, and then we got the measurement again. And we've done this process again and again and again over the past several years, and it's how I've achieved the best biomarkers of anybody in the world. Science really works. And so what you're going to hear today is the distillation of the best lessons that we've learned. Okay, so we're going to talk about sleep. My authority on this topic is I achieved the best sleep score in recorded history, 8 months of perfect sleep using the Whoop wearable. I wanted to show that you can achieve high-quality sleep, and it changes your life. And so first, not getting enough sleep is really bad. Yeah, take a look at those stats. You're 4.2 times more likely to get a cold. And I'll tell you actually one more that's kind of scary, is if you get 4 hours of sleep or less per night, your NK cells, these are cells in your body that survey the body for cancer, they're reduced by 72%. So your body stops searching for and killing cancer cells when you get 4 hours of sleep or less. Okay? That's how badly the body needs sleep. And if you don't get it, the kind of trauma you create. I'll tell you one more stat also is if you get a bad night's sleep, 4 hours or less, it's almost like having a traumatic brain injury, where if you hit your head against the wall, there's a certain protein called S100B, that the body increases and actually goes into the brain, crosses the blood-brain barrier. The same thing happens after 4 hours of sleep. So your brain experiences a bad night's sleep the same as it would have with a traumatic brain injury, which is why your brain hurts so bad without sleep. Okay, so here's how you avoid that. One is remap your identity that you are a professional sleeper. So today, yes, thank you. So today, we agreed to be here together at this particular time, and we all showed up on time, right? We have the ability to be on time. You have the ability to be on time for your bedtime, okay? So show yourself the same respect and be on time for your bedtime, but you're gonna build your life around sleep. Okay, so here's probably the best biomarker I have to offer for you, is tonight before you go to bed, measure your resting heart rate. Okay, so if you have a wearable, just open it up and see what your heart rate is. If you don't, just hold your fingers on the side of your neck and get your pulse. Count the number of beats for 6 seconds and then times that by 10 beats per minute. Okay, so let's say your resting heart rate is 60 beats per minute tonight before you go to bed. Your goal is to get your resting heart rate to 50, okay, within, let's call it a month. That is going to give you more health benefits than almost anything you can do in your entire life. Why? Because when your heart rate goes down, your sleep goes up. When sleep goes up, you exercise. When you exercise, you eat better. When you eat better, you sleep better. Okay, so it has this really nice flywheel. Okay, so here's how you lower your resting heart rate. Your last meal of the day is really important. Okay, so if your bedtime is 10 p.m., by 8 p.m., you want to have your final meal of the day. So between 8 and 10, no snacking. Now, if you want to try to experiment, push your final meal of the day back to 7 p.m. and then 6 and then 5, and you'll see the longer you give your body time to digest, the lower your heart rate, which makes sense because your body's doing fewer things. So by the time you go to bed, your digestion is finished. Now, my final meal of the day is at noon, thereabouts. I go to bed at 8:30, so I eat my final meal of the day about 8 to 9 hours before bedtime. I do that because my heart rate then goes to 44 beats per minute. If I hit 44 beats per minute, I'm going to have a perfect night's sleep. If I eat at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., my heart rate will be up around 50, 52, 53. I'll lose about 20 to 30% of my sleep quality. It's a very big drop. Okay, so identify your bedtime, do 2 hours to start, and now for the next week or two, experiment, maybe going back 30 minutes per day incrementally. Again, and you're measuring your heart rate, you'll go down and further as you move back. You may experience slight hunger. That's okay. Your body will get accustomed to it. Now, you'll also notice that the kinds of foods you eat dramatically affect how your heart rate responds. So if you have a very heavy meal, like pasta, breads, it will increase your heart rate. If you have something light, like steamed vegetables or a soup, it actually brings it down. So you'll learn through experimentation which foods lower your heart rate and which foods increase it. And I'll give you a list. I'll actually give you a plan today on which foods are optimized for that, okay? So lower your resting heart rate through food. 2 is in your home environment, you want to have red and amber lights. So I go to bed at 8:30. So at 7:30 p.m., I turn off all the lights in the house, and we have a red light and amber light. It's a really cool vibe, and that helps you calm down, and it also eliminates blues, okay? So blue light from screens, it reduces melatonin production, which causes a difficulty in sleep. So turn off screens and blues in the house. Consistency. So your body actually keeps track of time almost as well as a clock. When I was doing my 8 months of perfect sleep, I would go to bed within 1 minute of my bedtime. And I have to tell you, it was crazy how strong my body was. Like 8:29 p.m. would arrive, and sleep would just like wash over me and like knock me out. It was crazy. So be consistent, okay? So if your bedtime's at 10, try to be plus or minus 30 minutes. In doing that, your body's gonna get into a rhythm, and you're gonna feel all the benefits. So most people will reach for a sleep pill or something else before acquiring habits. Will tell you, habits are a much better performer than these pills. So master your food, master your bedtime, and that will be the best thing you can do for your sleep. Wind down routine. So this one's really, really important. So when I go to bed, probably like you, I have a bunch of voices inside my head that start talking to me. So when your head gets on the pillow, you start thinking about that conversation you had at work today, which made you upset, or that thing you're worried about, or the thing you're excited about, but you loop through these thoughts. And then when you finally go to bed, you wake up in the middle of the night, and what happens? You're looping again, okay? So when this happens, you want to basically calm these voices. So I go through this internal process every night. So 7:30 p.m. starts, and Sleep Bryan is now in charge. I imagine him with a sword and a shield. And I should have a picture of that, actually. Yeah. And so guess the first person who shows up, always, is Ambitious Bryan. And Ambitious Bryan says, I have a new idea about something I want to do. This is going to be so good. And Sleep Bryan says, Ambitious Bryan, we love you. We appreciate you. You're doing a great job. Right now, we're in sleep mode. So we're going to write down your great idea, and tomorrow, we're going to have this discussion. And Ambitious Bryan says, are you sure? And Sleep Bryan says, yep, we're doing that. So he goes away, and then Anxious Bryan shows up, and he says, Bryan, today during the South by Southwest talk, like you really blew it. And Sleep Bryan says, Anxious Bryan, thank you for keeping us in check. You always do a good job of remind us on these appropriate ways to behave in public. We're going to write this thing down, and tomorrow we're going to talk about this. Okay? Now you do this, whether it's this or something else, but you really need to speak to your internal voices. You need to calm yourself down. If you don't, it will prevent you from falling asleep and also dipping into deep sleep. Now, if you want to be mindful of stimulants as well, okay, so if you have a coffee, if your bedtime is, let's say, 10 p.m., and you have coffee at 4 p.m., the half-life of caffeine is 6 hours, which means when you go to bed, there's still a half a cup of caffeine equivalent in your body. So you're trying to go to bed when you have stimulants in your body. So if you consume caffeine or another stimulant, have it earlier in the day so it can process through your body. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard for you to go to bed with that caffeine. Now, one thing I didn't include, I'm just remembering here, is you want to be on point number 5, is you want to be consistent here, because when you don't go to bed on time, you miss this really important window of sleep, your deep sleep window. Okay, so if your bedtime's at 10, and let's say you have a work project and you need to push it to 1 a.m., most people would say, well, I'm going to bed at 1 a.m., therefore I'm going to sleep until 9 and make it up. But the body doesn't work like that. Okay, the body is expecting you to go to bed at 10, and it has a schedule for you to capture your deep sleep in the first 2 hours of your bedtime. Now, deep sleep is really important because it's like a garbage truck rolling through, picking up all the trash inside your body and taking it away. If you miss that window, the trash collector can't come, and the trash stays in your body. Okay, so be consistent. Let the trash collector roll through the body, grab the trash, and take it out. Okay? So you've seen this. What I've presented to you is not getting sleep is really, really bad for your health. Getting good sleep is really, really good. In fact, the best performance enhancer you can have. And these are the habits that will produce the highest value sleep. So let me get a few hands. How many of you do you think you can incorporate these habits into your life? Okay, for those of you who are not raising your hands, who are you? Okay, what's going on? Why? Doesn't stick. And what doesn't stick? Yes. It just falls off. Okay, so basically it's the challenges. So you understand this is a good idea for you. It's just the difficulty of creating the habit. Cool, okay? You're nodding too. Same thing? Okay, all right. So I think if you, the way I try to structure myself in doing this is if you have a certain habit, let's just say that you have this difficulty of going to bed on time. I had a difficulty where I ate food at night and I couldn't stop myself from doing so. So that guy was Evening Bryan. So he was from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. He was so stressed out from the day. It was just everything was always on fire. He was out of willpower. And the only thing that would soothe him was eating food. And I couldn't stop the behavior. So I made a rule and I said, Evening Bryan, you're fired. You make my life miserable. Every single day you show up, right? It's we're gonna have one bite. No, Evening Bryan, that's not the case. You eat the whole fucking pan, right? Every night. All right, how many of you have an Evening Bryan? Yeah, everyone. So I think for me, it was really to say, I have no power doing this. Therefore, I need to make rules to keep myself in check. Because here's the thing about sleep. You guys have to build these systems as habits, okay? You cannot give yourself decision control. You cannot make decisions at 9 p.m. whether you're going to eat ice cream. You're going to fail every time, okay? You have to make the rule and keep the rule no matter what, okay? This is the thing I learned at Blueprint is the goal here was to say, before I did Blueprint, I built a company, Braintree Venmo. We built software for payments. And we could build software in a predictable fashion. You code something, it does it. The software never pulls up and it's like, you know what, today I don't feel like doing payments. I'm going to do something else. It doesn't. I wanted to train myself and say, could I build myself like software? Can I just do something that I want to do instead of being this crazy human? And so I would suggest for all of you who are having difficulties, build systems. Never allow yourself to make decisions in the moment when you're weak. Okay, so by the end of the day, you're low on willpower. And by the way, when we did this at my brain interface company, we measured my willpower according to my deep sleep. With deep sleep, I had 9 times the willpower as when I didn't. When you don't get deep sleep that first 2 hours of a night, your willpower plummets. So the next night, when you haven't had deep sleep, the likelihood of whether you're going to eat that bag of cookies is substantially higher. Okay, so this is why sleep is number 1, because it fuels willpower. And more willpower, better systems, okay? All right, any other, give me one more rebuttal. Like, who's not going to do this? Yes. Yeah, so the question is, what do you do if your schedule is inconsistent? I try so hard to be consistent. Like, it does take some effort, and sometimes you don't have power. Yeah, sometimes you're dealing with something you can't control. But I do, like, for example, I will not take a red-eye flight because it just destroys your health. And that, of course, takes an extra day of travel. So just try within your power whatever you can do to improve the routine. But I hear you, it's challenging. This is why health is kind of a community sport, is if more of us agree, like, the party doesn't need to start at 1 a.m. You can definitely start a party at 6 p.m. and everyone's just as cool, right? Like, it makes no sense. So it's just like doing things together is really the big difference. Okay. All right, we'll do, by the way, you can go into the app and go to the talk and you can submit questions. We'll do a Q&A at the end. Okay, exercise. Okay, before we do that though, let's everyone stand up. Yeah, move around a little bit. Arms up in the air. Did you know, so as you age, you get less flexible, so you want to have your arms at a 90-degree angle, straight up. If you're like this, then it's a good opportunity to get more flexible. So you got to go straight up. Okay, back down. Okay, exercise. This is VO2 max is one of the best predictors for longevity. So that's, if you've ever done this, you have a mask on your face and you're basically measuring oxygen utilization inside your body. So this is one of the best predictors of lifespan. Mine is in the top 1% of 20-year-olds. And so the data here is just crazy. This first stat in particular, 300 to 400% increase in all-cause mortality without exercise. So just like sleep, not getting good sleep is terrible for the body. The same is true with exercise, and it's probably one of the biggest markers for all-cause mortality. Now, the positive thing is it flips in the positive if you do exercise. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this other than to say you all have your individual preferences. Some of you like yoga, some Pilates, some strength training, some pickleball. Like, do your thing. Try to have a balance of what you do with cardio, strength training, mobility, flexibility. Okay, it's like actually we'll do this real quick. We'll do an age test real quick. Everyone stand up. I'll show you. Okay, so one of the ways to measure biological age, there's like hundreds, is balance, okay? So you're going to stand on one foot. Okay, just be careful for those around you because you might fall. We don't want anyone to get hurt. Okay, you stand on one foot, and I'm gonna say 3, 2, 1, and you're gonna close your eyes. Okay, okay, be careful. Okay, and then I'm gonna time you. Okay, great. Okay, Kate's got a timer, and then I'm going to speak the time intervals. You want to be able to stand with one foot, okay, for at least 16 seconds. Okay, you're going to see once you close your eyes, it's very hard to stay upright. Okay, now if you want to be top percentile for your age or for the test, it's like 35 seconds thereabouts. Okay, so I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. You're going to close your eyes. Try to stand up as much as you can. I'll be reading out the time. Okay. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Close eyes. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. 8 seconds. 10. 12. Keep your feet flat. 15. 18. 20. 22. 25. Who's up? Don't raise your hand. Keep it down. Sorry. 30. Okay. All right. How many of you made it to 30? Cool. Yeah. Cool. Good job, guys. So you can practice this at home, but as you age, your ability to maintain balance decreases, which is why as you age, and people who actually make a fall down, like break a hip or something, they're like basically toast. It's very, very hard to come back from that. So this is one thing you can do for exercise is you can train balance because it's really important for longevity. And so that's one example of a biological age marker. There's hundreds that I've been doing over the past couple of years. We do, at our summits, we do 7 biological age tests for fitness. And it's really fun to find your body's functional biological age compared to your chronological age. Okay, freeze everyone, don't move. Don't move. Okay. How's your posture? How's your posture? Okay. Yep. Okay. So just take note of your posture. So I didn't realize how important posture was. I got an MRI measurement of my whole body, and I found that I have a thing called internal jugular vein stenosis, which means these veins inside your neck go up and down, taking blood to and from the brain. And my posture was like this. And doing that, I was cutting off blood from my brain. And so I did PT to try to straighten my posture. And so the way to think about this is get into a bad posture position. And you want to go up. Like imagine a string right above your head, pulling up. Not bad. Straight up. And you want to maintain that all the time. It's very, very hard. So when you start doing it, you're going to be incredibly sore. In my family, we have a thing where my son was making fun of me. He's like, Dad's like an AI. And he's like, zip, zip, zip. And so now in the house, whenever someone says zip, everyone immediately straightens up, okay? And that's when you're on your phones, right, like this. Same thing, zip, okay? So posture is extremely important for longevity. It keeps blood flow to and from your brain. The channel's open. It doesn't restrict it. So there's emergent interest in the scientific field. This is not proven evidence that some of the cause of cognitive decline could be from bad posture. And there's certainly a lot of it today because there's just not enough blood flow to and from the brain. Okay, diet. Oh man, I need to hurry. We have 21 minutes left. Okay, we have so much to do. Okay, diet. Okay, so with Blueprint is we have this concept where every calorie I consume has to fight for its life. Okay, every calorie. And so we went through all the scientific evidence. We said, what foods contribute the most to longevity? So this is what I do on a daily basis to give you an example. I'm going to skip over this just because we know food is really important, and having a bad diet shortens lifespan and makes life miserable. This one stat, okay, 1 weekly serving of fried chicken was enough to increase mortality risk by 13%. Okay, all right, so go ahead and grab you guys this recipe, this dinner plate. This is the best evidence in the entire world for what foods slow down your speed of aging and give you best health, okay? Now, this is not, you may have particular needs that take you on a different path. That's totally cool. So this is not me saying this is perfect. This is me saying the evidence suggests this for population level studies is the best evidence to slow down your speed of aging, okay? If you are doing a carnivore diet, do your thing. If you're doing keto, do your thing. Simply giving you an option for an evidence-based approach for how to think about what foods to consume, okay? Community, I'm also gonna skip over this pretty quickly. We all know the importance of having friends, of being a friend, of caring for, of loving. If you look at the delta here, like serious mental illness, without community can cost 8 to 17 years of life. It's really significant. Okay, measurement. So science begins with counting. So this is one of my first blood draws. We're kind of getting crazy here. We're trying to figure out what's going on. I think this draw, we had like 67 vials. I probably should have died, but but yeah, there's like the earliest days of Blueprint. So this I want to share with you on a data point that's really interesting is, I hope this motivates you, is when I started, inside each one of us, we have a clock which determines either how fast or how slow we're aging. Now, we intuitively know this because we have certain friends that look great for their age, certain friends who are maybe struggling a little bit. So that's their clock. That's either how fast or how slow they're aging. My speed of aging is literally off the charts. It's 0.48. Okay, that means my birthday happens every 24 months. Okay, I've dramatically slowed it down. Now, we've done that, again, by identifying everything that slows down aging. Eating well, sleeping, exercising. And then, of course, we've gone through other therapies as well. But I want to motivate you that you can meaningfully slow down the progression of disease and disability and meaningfully increase the amount of time you're vibrant and healthy. Okay? This is a test we offer. Now, here's the basics. If you're going to measure yourself and try to get baselined, try to do blood work, at least once a year, like a baseline panel to try to find anything seriously wrong. This speed of aging test is also a good one, like how fast or how slow are you aging, and then what lifestyle changes can you make? We just started measuring microplastics. We, of course, have heard all the news that our brains have 50% more microplastics in the last decade alone. That, they're at the top of Everest, the bottom of the ocean, they're in our testicles, they're in breast milk, they're just everywhere. It's really kind of concerning. And then whole body MRI or DEXA, you want to find problems early. So if you're older than 40 years old, an annual MRI is one of the best investments you can make with your money, because finding something terribly wrong, like a tumor or cancer, you're 80% plus more likely to solve it successfully than if you find it late. Don't be surprised by these things. And then VO2 max we spoke about, and we just did the one-legged stand fitness test. Okay, so if you want my protocol, over the past couple of years, I have shared everything for free. So everything we learn, we publish online. If you follow this link here, you have all my information on my diet, my daily protocol, how to drink clean water, how to brush your teeth, how to rejuvenate your skin. I update it on a routine basis, but my goal is to help all of you achieve the best health of your life. And our goal is to be very evidence-based in our approach. Okay, so next lesson. This is going to get into some harder concepts, so let's do this. Okay, how is don't die going to save us? We can understand the concept of being healthy and feeling vibrant. We can also understand not feeling healthy and being mentally ill. How do we think about this on a civilization scale as a species? Okay, I'm going to say 4 big things are happening in the world right now. We are giving birth to superintelligence. It's the biggest thing happening in the entire world right now. I want to submit that there's no existing ideology, not capitalism, not socialism, not any existing religion, nothing in the world actually answers the question of what does a species do when you're giving birth to superintelligence. With AI, the survival of the human race is not guaranteed. And with AI, it is not clear that biological death is inevitable anymore. Right? We may be the first generation who will not die. Now, with these big 4 things happening in the world, there's this pressing question, what do we do? And so if you listen to what's happening in the world, everybody's got a different idea. You have some companies building AI in an open source model, some are closed source. The Republicans have an idea, the Democrats have a different idea. China has a certain way of doing things, the US is different. We have a cacophony of opinions on and approaches of what you do with superintelligence. But it's suffice to say, there is no consensus on what we should do. Everybody wants to point AI at their objective, sometimes at the cost of other people's objectives. So the proposal here with Don't Die is that the human race would be wise to repurpose its objectives away from money at any cost to don't die. And let me explain how this game would happen. So the goal here is don't die human, don't die Earth, and don't die species. Align AI with don't die. So this captures it to me, really, that in any time in human history, death was inevitable. So when death is inevitable, it's like, sure, right? I might as well go to war and become a war hero and die with honor. I might as well have this debaucherous behavior and drink and smoke and whatever. I might as well. It's always a justification on, I might as well, why not? Now is this different moment. If we don't die, it's an invitation to rebuild society altogether. Now, the way to think about this, so if you say, but Bryan, hold tight. I can't see a path where sleeping well and eating well and exercising leads to immortality. Well, actually, I'm not saying immortality, but leads to not dying. Okay, I agree. So the reason why I think this is a possibility is if you track the progress of AI, it's like we're bringing online billions of human-level geniuses to solve problems. So over the past century, we've doubled lifespan. Why? Because really smart people have figured out bacteria, hygiene, antibiotics, vaccines. So we're going to have billions of AI intelligence working on the hardest problems in aging, which is why I think that we will make substantial progress in the field of aging over the next 10 years, sufficiently so that I think everyone will turn their attention and say, this is kind of legit. So that's just the beginning, of course. If you're tracking AI, you see week to week, things are moving very, very fast. Okay, so Don't die is very conducive to this kind of thing because don't die is based upon entropy, the laws of physics that things tend towards disorder. Entropy is the final boss of the universe, is ultimately what turns out all the stars and us individually. So you can measure entropy or death. So a cigarette, smoking one cigarette costs you 11 minutes of life. India would be better off addressing its air pollution than curing all cancer. That's how significant the air pollution problem is in India. And of course, that's not in the citizens' control. They just breathe it when they're outside. And then loneliness can cost 5 years of life. So these are all societal problems. So how can we play Don't Die? So Don't Die school lunch. For example, we have this idea in society that kids should not smoke cigarettes. That's bad. But you know what? When they're in school, we feed them die in the form of school lunch. Right? A piece of pizza, chocolate milk, plastic lined, and canned vegetables with BPA. That's die. So can we assign it a number? Can we say we're feeding our kids 2 years of die by giving them that food? Okay, Don't Die air quality, we talked about that in India, and also some parts in the US. And then Don't Die foodome. This is an endeavor that we're doing as a team. We're going to, just like we have the genome for our genetics, we're going to sequence the US foodome, which means we're going to test 20% of the foods that 80% that constitutes 80% of the American diet. Okay, so stuff we eat every day, like at this conference, in this town, and then we can say the average American consumes blank of lead per day, and blank of glyphosate per day, and blank of mercury per day. Right now, we have no idea, but I can tell you, I've been testing all the foods I've been consuming for the past few years. We test everything in our environment, the air, the food, the water, everything. I can tell you, our food system is incredibly toxic. And I think you've heard this, but when you see the data, it is really terrifying. So we're going to try to surface this so we can then start saying, okay, now how do we have better practices to have better food across our entire supply chain? It's not meant to be a gotcha to companies. It's meant to help them be better producers of higher quality food and no toxin levels. Many companies do not even test. I can tell you we've gotten some results back in our first few things. Baby food has a lot of toxins. Dog food has a lot of toxins. It's really kind of scary. So we'll show these things in the coming weeks, but again, it's like a don't die endeavor that as a community, we don't want to eat toxins. Companies don't want to make toxins. They really don't want to. It's just part of their processes. They can't help it, where they're sourcing foods from. All right, so that's what it looks like. Don't die is ideological, it's religious, it's ethical, it's moral, it's political, it's economic. And it will take all of us to do this. So the goal here is that Don't Die is the most influential ideology in the world by 2027, that we're at this critical moment as a species. Okay, but what about, people oftentimes, they see Don't Die and they say, Bryan, it's so negative, why don't you make it something positive? And the answer is this, that there's been more blood spilled over humans fighting over what lives well means than anything else in existence. Right? My values are better than yours. My government's better than yours. My religion is better than yours. So Don't Die is the single most played game by every human on the planet every second of every day. We all play Don't Die. That is the single thing humanity agrees upon. So it's not about living forever. Don't Die is about living right now. This is not about immortality. This is about surviving this moment as AI becomes the more dominant force of intelligence. And this is to secure our existence. All right, so I'm going to stop there. So actually, I'll do one more slide here. Don't die is yes and. So don't die. You can be Christian and don't die. You can be an atheist and don't die. You can be Muslim and don't die. You can be capitalist and don't die. It is the most friendly ideology in the entire world that invites everyone to play. You like that? Yeah. I mean, like most ideologies, it's like, I'm going to tell you my ideology. If you don't accept that, I'm going to kill you. Right? So this is like a very, very friendly introduction. Okay, so here's one ethical question. It's like, Bryan, what don't die, what happens if a mother's going to potentially die at giving birth? So it's kind of like when America said we're 13 colonies, we're going to become a democracy. They didn't have all the answers about democracy. We've been trying to figure out what democracy is for 200 years. Don't die is the same thing. We have a lot of ethical and moral problems to solve. So it's just an introduction that we're just saying We're so blessed to be alive. We're so blessed to have conscious existence. Let's not ruin this. Let's not stop this thing. It's a really good situation. Okay? All right. So today we learned 5 things. Dying makes you sad. You all are now going to be aware in all of your decision making that to not do things that make you sad and to do things that make you happy. Don't Die is going to save us, and it will take all of us to pull this off. All right. Join Don't Die. You can download the app. We have a community of people. It's a very positive community. People are posting about recipes, fitness, how they're doing in their day. It's a very positive community. You can track your biological age with a wearable device. You get a daily Don't Die score that motivates you. And if you join, you get a bad sleep score, I'm going to call you. All right, let's do questions. Because how was that? That was the first time. Cool. This is the first time I had given this talk, and like we packed so much into it, right? We just did like 4 talks in one. So thanks for hanging with me, and I really hope it sticks, you guys. I promise you that choosing health will make you happy, okay? Be strong, set up life systems. Don't fall for the cultural norms that make you sad. It's not worth it. It's never, ever, ever worth it. Cheat days are never worth it. Cheat days become cheat weeks and cheat months. Don't do it, okay? And I sincerely believe like we are at this most special moment in the history of the human race right now. And I think we really have an opportunity for an extraordinary existence, but it just requires us to be sober and clear-minded in this moment. Okay, cool. So I think we have some questions here that you guys submitted on the app, and we'll run through those. Okay, great. Okay, my thoughts on cannabis. Be really careful with cannabis. Yep. It can mess up all kinds of things. It can mess up your mood. It can get you into different routines. If you're doing it for some kind of pain management, I get that. If you're doing it recreational, I just offer extreme caution. I personally don't know anybody using cannabis as a longevity therapy. Okay? And I personally don't know people who use cannabis who report exceptionally high levels of happiness. Right? I mean, you guys tell me, right? But that's generally true. Is it's not a banger for like living the best life. Okay? Does it matter what time? Okay, what time you go to sleep as long as it's consistent? Yeah. So just choose your bedtime. So you are a chronotype. So I go to bed at 8:30 p.m. But that's me. If you do best at 10 p.m. or 11 or 12, that's fine. Just pick your time and be consistent. Okay? You don't want to miss the trash collector. Okay, if aging slows or stops, does humanity redefine purpose? Okay, yes. So this is, if we are able to not die, then, here's the cool thought experiment. So imagine going back in time, you're hanging out with Homo erectus, okay? That's 1 million years ago. That's our ancestor. They have an axe in their hand. And you say, Homo erectus, tell me about why the future is exciting. Like, why should we be excited about the future? They would probably say, look, we're going to forage here, we're going to hunt there, we're going to go to war there. They wouldn't be able to say, one day you're going to hold a little pill in your hand and it's going to cure your infection, antibiotics. Or that you're going to discover there's a microscopic world of atoms and molecules. Or that you're going to have little glowing objects in your hand. You can speak with anyone in the world and have access to all the knowledge. They don't have models. And I would submit to you, our level of intelligence relative to AI makes us cavemen. We may be just as primitive. And so if the question becomes, what do we have to live for? We don't know. We can't answer that question intelligently. We don't have the models, just like Homo erectus didn't have 1 million years ago. So the invitation is for us to be incredibly humble that we are giving birth to something far more intelligent than us, and we simply want to be around for the show. All right, besides obvious, like eating organic, what are the top 3? Okay, so organic is like worthless. You guys, it is like, it's worthless. We get foods and we test them at organic. Sometimes they're the worst foods we have. And so they don't test for things like heavy metals. So what I've learned is like you can't go to any grocery store, you can't buy any brand and be safe. Now I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, that causes all kinds of anxiety, but I want to be real with you. It's just very, very hard to buy clean food. And so we're going to test these things and make this knowledge, this information available to you so you start having intuitions. We've developed a lot of intuitions. I'll tell you a quick story. We bought some black lentils that were organic. And we tested them, and they came back very high in heavy metals, like dangerously high in heavy metals. And we called the supplier and we said, what's up? Like, why is this going on? And they said, oh yeah, well, we use human sludge to fertilize the lentils. We said, wait, you're using human sludge? And yeah, so it's like a cheaper way of doing it. So what's happening is humans are going to the bathroom, and humans have a lot of heavy metals in them. That is being used as fertilizer to go back into the food chain. So we're cycling these heavy metals through our food chain. Okay. Now, organic doesn't capture that. So I guess like the best way of doing this is start with the worst offenders. Okay. Fast food is really bad. Like we know that. Fried food is really bad. So start knocking off the bad stuff and try to find your way to the better stuff. Fried seed oils are bad. Okay. But in terms of like when you go to the store and you're trying to decide between this and that, there's currently no way to know. Okay. So it's a problem. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to publish this data. I'm going to share with you. We can work on it together. Okay, there's going to be a mechanism, I hope we have, where you can find whatever food you like, go to the website and say, I want this to be tested. You can then donate money to have it tested, and we get the results back, and then we're going to say, hey, brand, come own your profile and pay the person back who paid for this. Okay, so now, in doing that, that is a don't die endeavor where we say, food in our toxins in our food supply is bad. None of us want it. So how do we collectively get together and pool our money to test these things? Okay, so that's an example of how we move through. All right. Next, can having too much sleep have negative health consequences? Yes. So if you look at the data on sleep, it's a curve where all-cause mortality, which is like how likely you are to die, is very high. It goes straight down, hits the best point at 7 hours, and then starts back up. Okay, so 7 hours is ideal, but you can say 8 if you add an activity or other needs, okay? So between 7 to 8 hours is where the data shows is optimal for sleep. If you have too much sleep, you're more likely to actually die. So too little sleep or too much sleep, and this is what I've learned at Blueprint, is there's an optimal amount for everything. So the idea is if 1 is good, 2 is better, is not accurate. Okay? You want an optimal amount all the time, and so that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. All right, how does sex fit into Blueprint? I mean, it's great, right? I mean, so human connection and human intimacy is really important, and there's just not enough of it in the world. So sex is very important has great longevity benefits, so do it. Okay, what do you recommend for parents with young kids? Okay, so I would suggest you sit down with a family, and this is true for those of you who have roommates or with your siblings, whomever you're living with, sit down and say, we are a family or we are a culture of sleep. And these are the rules for our family, okay? We go to bed at this time, or like if we have different bedtimes, here's the noise rules, like here's what you can and cannot do. Nobody wakes somebody up at night, ever, unless someone's life is in danger. And even then, maybe, okay? And then create a star chart, and everybody in the family gets either 1 or 5 stars based upon their performance, okay, including you. So your kids give you a star chart. Did you stay up at night in front of the TV when you should have been in bed? If they catch you, then you get a 1 star. So establish a family culture of sleep. Everybody obeys the rules. And if you do that, it's going to substantially improve. But it's when it's chaotic, when it's like you don't know when electronics turn off, people are in front of the screens, right? People are eating and snacking at all times of the night. Establish sleep hygiene, set rules and systems. Okay, last one. Brian, I'm a 23-year-old fit and happy. I love partying. Okay. All right, Frank, son, where are you at? Frank? did he leave? Did he drop? Okay. Okay. What's stopping me from living this way now and just what you're doing when I'm 40? Okay. So, let me suggest this with like all sincerity. Partying is really bad, okay? Now, you may perceive it to be fun, but it's really wrecking you, okay? And you may not be able to see it. Like, of course, we think about liver damage, but we don't take into account what's happening with your mental wellness. And this is what I'm talking about with 2025, is that these kinds of things, they may appear to be living life. They may have this illusion of living life. They don't produce happiness. You can be happy by not doing these things. So Frank, I would encourage you and all of you guys to remap what you think is fun. you can have a fulfilling, exceptional life and not do those things. All right, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Great seeing you. And you guys, don't die.